Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today on the set this Yoma Daf Pei Beis. We are going to begin on the very top of Pei Beis and Aleph by the Mishnah. The Mishnah says Hatinaikis Ein Ma'anin Oisan B'Yom Kippurim, that someone who is under the age of bar and bat mitzvah does not fast. However, we will have them engage in some form of training a year or two before. So this way, like all mitzvahs of chinuch, we have them engaged in various mitzvahs, even though they're not mechuyim in a Torah. But nonetheless, this way they'll be ready when their bar and bat mitzvah comes. Says Rashi, mechanchen oisan l'shois. It doesn't mean that they fast completely, but for a little bit of time. If they shana, she's smuch la pirkin. A year before their time. Now pirkin have been sholosh esri shana when the cave. When it comes to a girl, it's when she turns her 13th year, which is when she's 12 years old. Her 12th birthday, she's 12 years and 1 day, which means she's having her 13th birthday. Your arb also is zachar. And for a boy, it's when he's going into his 14th year, which is 13 years and 1 day. Shaderech tinaikis, the way of girls, Muhavi shtei saros b'shtei messer v'yom echad. They have physical signs of maturity before boys do. Dainu b'toch shnashid gimel. V'hi pirka lo'inchin. This is the time of punishments. V'tinuk b'yud gim v'yom echad nimsa shnashid al pirka lo'inchin. Shnashid gimel hi shana hasmuch la pirka, shnashid beis hi shana lefnei shana hasmuch la pirka. Now Rashi reminds us of the Gemara's upcoming question. That he says hash lefnei shtayim dahainu gimel shanim amart. It's a very difficult language of our Mishnah, because if it says you have to fast already shanatayim 2 years before, so then obviously you're already fasting the year before. So why does it say lifnei shana lifnei shanatayim? Which is the Gemara's question right here. Hashdam lifnei shtayim mechanchen lahu v'lifnei shana meboy. If we already know that you have to fast on some level 2 years before, so why does it say 1 year before? So it depends on the child. If you're a sick child, so it's only 1 year before. If you're healthy, 2 years before. And now we have a three-way machlokas exactly how all this works. The first two shitas are going to say that even a child may have to complete their fast. Rav Huna ben ches, in this context, is referring to a girl, because she at 12 is when she's already bat mitzvah. So 2 years before that, she's 10, and then 2 years before that she's 8. So ben tes, which is the same thing for a boy, it's 13, 11, 9 here. So 4 years before they're born by mitzvah, that's when they fast at least for some time. Ben yud, if it's a healthy girl, when she's 10, ben yud alf me'ashlim l'rabbanan. Ben yud beis me'ashlim l'raisa b'tinaikis. So again, if you're talking about a girl, when she's 12 years old, she has to fast midoraisa. When she's 10, she has to fast completely with a Rabbana. When she's 8, she fasts l'shois. But not whenever ben tes, ben yud. Rather it's 9 and 10, l'shois. Not 8 and 9, but 9 and 10. And then ben yud aleph, ben yud beis, mashlum with a Rabbana, and ben yud gimel, mashlum with a reisa b'tinuk. Of course, when it comes to a tinuk, and a tinaikis, there's no machlokas. Once they're 12 or 13, that's the time which they have to fast with a reisa. The question is, do they start at 8 and 9 l'sha'is, or is it 9 and 10? Rabbi Yochanan has a totally different shot. Rabbi Yochanan are hashlama the rabbanan leika. There is no such thing as hashlama. We don't require a boy or a girl under the age of bar mitzvah to have to fast completely. Rather, nothing at 8, nothing at 9, but rather 2 years before. Ben yud aleph, nechanech l'sha'is. When a boy is 10 or a girl is 10 and a boy is 11, 2 years before, they should at least start fasting a little bit. Ben yud beis mashlim d'oraisa, and then when she's a 12-year-old girl, she's mashlim d'oraisa is what everyone holds. Now, hatinaikis ein ma'ana noisim Yom Kippurim. We do not make children fast. Now, Bishlam, Rav Huna, Rav Nachman, I can understand these two shitas, the first two shitas. Lefnei shana, lefnei shnatayim. What does that mean? Lefnei shana l'divrei hen, lefnei shtayim l'divrei hen. each according to their opinions, whether they start at 8 years old or they start at 9 years old. El Rabbi Yochanan Kasha. What does this mean? There's not like two different times. So Amr Rabbi Yochanan, my shanu shtayim samach apirkin. It just means a year or two near their time, and that's when they start being fasting with shal. So it's a healthy child, so it's 2 years before. Tashma the Tani Rabba Bar Shmuel Tinakis ein ma'ananais Yom Kippurim. They don't fast on Yom Kippur. Aval b'chanchanois shanu shtayim samach apirkin. It's interesting language of being machanech. Now, Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan Nicha. I can understand according to him. It makes sense, this language, because it's basically telling you that that there is, Rashi says, whether it's a year or two, depending if it's a healthy or sickly child. So then that's what it means. Shana or time. It's pretty clear, like Rabbi Yochanan. El Rav Huna Rav Nachman Kasha. What do you mean? It's not a year or two. One sheet holds 8 years old, so 4 years before, or 3 years before. It's talking about a year or two for a healthy child when it comes to hashlam, the completion. But they hold that there's l'shais even 2 years before that. If you normally eat after the second hour, push it off on Yom Kippur. Wait an extra hour. So we see the word chinuch has nothing to do with hashlam, it has to do with shais. There's two forms of chinuch. One is l'shais and one is tashlam. Okay, let's see a few questions. Question 7. So, according to one opinion, it's either it starts at 8 or it starts at 9. So, let's say for a girl, let's say for a boy, he starts at 9 years old for shais, and then 2 years later is hashlamim and rabbanon, and then of course he has his bar mitzvah at 13 is deraisa. Second shita is no, you don't do anything at 9 years old. Rather, you start at 11 years old nechan l'shais, like a hashlamim and rabbanon. There's no such thing as hashlamim. There's only shais. Question TA5. What's it in my chayla shais? So the second sheet is the more simple one to remember, which is that it's going to be 1 year before, right? But according to the other two sheets, it's 3 years before. Okay. Question TB7. A girl, Latinis Yom Kippurim. So again, if a girl's 12 years old, so one sheet, she has to start when she's 8 years old, right? If she's healthy. If she's sick, she starts at 9 years old. Well, shais, and then you bump it up 2 more years. Let's see how he writes it. Okay, I would have said the question, the answer a little bit differently based on the wording of the question. Let's continue with the next Mishnah. You have a pregnant woman, she smells something which draws her attention, that she wants to eat it, and it's Yom Kippur. So we'll let her eat until she calms down. Someone who's sick, you can feed them, but through the evaluation of experts, and Rashi says, Refoim doctors. If there's no doctors around, so we can ask them, do you need to eat? If they need to eat, they eat until they say enough. So you have this pregnant woman who smells things which are mamish usher to eat. So we don't just have her eat it right away, we do things gradually. We stick this thing in to a needle, into liquid of this non-kosher or kodesh food. We put it in her mouth. If she's calm, then good. We'll give her an actual liquid. That's good if that's enough. Then we give her the fat, the non-kosher food, or again the kodesh itself. Very important klal that Hashem wants us to live. Obviously, we have to do the mitzvos. We're commanded to do His mitzvos, but it's not at the expense of something which is life-threatening. And therefore, in Yom Kippur, a woman, even in Yom Kippur, you have to fast in Yom Kippur. But if it's something which is detrimental and very dangerous for a woman's life and for the life of the uber, of the fetus, so therefore we allow her to break Shabbos, break Yom Tov, break Shabbos. The only thing we don't allow are the cardinal sins of idol worship, as well as Gilur Rayas, as well as Shlichus Dam and murder. So why those three things? So Avodah Zarah don't understand it. In the Shema we say you have to love Hashem with all your soul and all of your might, which Gemara and Brachos says means all your money, all your possessions. So why does it have to say both of them? If you have to give up your own life to serve Hashem, which means against Avodah Zarah, so im yesh lecha adam shigufa chavavul b'maynai lakach nebo chol nafshecho, which is an unbelievable part, which is also brought to the stuff this Brachos now samachal on the base, that if a person values their physical life more than money, then the Torah says you have to even serve Hashem with all your soul. There's some people that value their money more than their own lives. Like the old joke, a person comes up to you with a gun and says, your money, your life, and you say, let me think about it. But the truth is, some people will allow their health to go, and they end up working and making money. Of course, parnasa is parnasa, but you end up pushing yourself beyond your limits, and you get yourself physically ill and sick. You're not taking care of your physiological needs, so perhaps you're an individual that your money is more important than your good. But nonetheless, we see that means Avodah Zarah is something you have to even give up your life for, because you have to serve Hashem and not anything else. Gil Yerayah Shvichas Dam Manal 102. The sign Rabbi Yomi, the pasuk says, Ki kashi yakum ish al riehu or tzachli nefesh kineda barzeh. So we see a link between murder and Nar HaMarasa, a woman who was between the ages of 12 and 12 and a half, in which she was engaged, that there would be a punishment of skila by having relations under those circumstances, or Lenar Losas Davar, she's being pursued, then we'll see what the response is. What do they have to do with each other? You can learn one thing from each other. Is the same thing, which means that if, let's say, you see someone pursuing another person with a knife, so it's din right if you're allowed to step up and kill the guy. How do we know that? From Anar Marasa. If a person is going to pursue this girl, so you're also you're allowed to step up and to make sure that doesn't happen. It says Rashi, you can do this until he has tashmish with her. You have to save her in any form of salvation. Again, when it comes to murder, that is a davar pashut, that if someone says, kill this person or I'm going to kill you, you're not allowed to kill that other person. You can defend yourself, but you're not allowed to kill another person to preserve your own life. We'll see why. But because that is the case, which we're going to say now is accepted, so too when it comes to the din of Megillah Rayas, if someone says you need to have tashmish with such and such a person, or else I'm going to kill you, it's Yarg Val Yavo. Of course, the Taisus in numerous places asked by Esther Hamalka, but one of the truths is she's a karka oilam. So there's more of a heter when it comes to a woman, because if she's passive and just sits there, she's not really engaged in tashmish, and therefore maybe Yarg Val Yavar doesn't necessarily apply Ayin Sham. So as we continue to pay Beis and Beis, how do we know when it comes to a murderer it's Yarg Val Yamor? Svarhi. There's no pasuk, it's just obvious. It should be logical and obvious to you. What's the logic? Dahudi Rabbi. Came in front of Rabbi Amalei, said, Amalei Mori Doroi. So this powerful person said, kill this guy, and if you don't kill him, I'm going to kill you. So am I allowed to kill this guy? So Amalei, unfortunately, Nikolach lo tiktoy. You have to allow yourself to be killed and not to kill someone else. Why? I'm an important person. Let me kill this other nobody. And this is an unbelievable svara. Machaz is the dadamadi doch. How do you know that your blood is more red. Maybe his blood is more red. In other words, who says that your life is more important than someone else's life? Now, this is an amazing thing. It doesn't make any chiluk between who you are and who they are. It doesn't make any distinction between your age and their age, your gender, their gender, right? None of these things make any difference. It doesn't matter if you're 20 years old and someone says, I want you to kill this 90-year-old or else I'm going to kill you. You don't say, well, he's lived a long enough life, so really my life should be more important. No. We cannot put a price or any type of assessment on human life. Doesn't make any difference how old they are, how young you are. That's it. Therefore, because of that, it's a svara, and the Gemara doesn't even have any questions. That's a double pasha. Okay. Let's go back to the case of the pregnant woman. The Orcha also kamei the Rabbi Armelhu zil chashula diyamadi kippurahu. So she had this tremendous taiva to eat, and he said, why don't you go and whisper to her that today's Yom Kippur? So they whispered to her, the ilchisha, and basically Rashi says kibulas halchisha. She was makabelet, and the uber inside who was desiring to eat stopped bothering. Karileh, and this the pasuk Yomi b'terem before even that which is created in your stomach already knows. In other words, there's something clearly amazing about this child, the fact that they recognize, even in the Uber, today's Yom Kippur, stop driving your mom crazy. So Rabbi Yochanan, this actually ended up becoming the great Rabbi Yochanan. On the other hand, go and whisper. However, it didn't stop. It was still driving the mom crazy. So that this child is like a stranger and wicked in the womb. Even in the womb, we said this person will end up being bad. From this woman came this person, Shabtai, who was a wicked person, who was an Atzer Peri. Says Rashi, Lafkia She'orim, that he cornered the market of buying all fruits in order to raise prices, and people ended up starving because of all the prices. I in the Gemara in Baba Basra, this entire story. So I'm going to stop there, but let's conclude with question 8. The answer is Rav Yochanan about Eza Ma'ura, because once, even though the mother smelled something on Yom Kippur, and they whispered into her, like by her belly, that it's Yom Kippur, and all of a sudden the desire ended up stopping. So it was very clear that this had a future of a human being that would end up becoming very, very great. In fact, it was the case. It was the great Rabbi Yochanan. Ad kan.